Well, joining us on the sofa is Ashwin Kumar, Research and Policy Director of the left-leaning think tank, the IPPR North. So was this a good spending review for our region?
I think what was really important is the beginning of capital spending, investment in public services, transport, schools. There'll be money for school rebuilding, more money for investment in better tech and better buildings in the NHS. One of the problems about the UK is that, for instance, you look at our health service, we probably spend as much on day-to-day spending on kind of staff salaries as other countries, but we've often not invested. And one of the problems that this government inherited was that the previous government had rules that effectively stopped them investing as much as they should have done. We've now got a better situation. We've finally got some delivery on the promises of transport in the north. We're going to have a better, investment in schools. I think it's a good budget from the point of view of capital investment, even though day-to-day spending won't be growing ginormously. There'll be steady increases whilst we have got this capital to invest. We have already started to see waiting lists come down, but there's clearly much more to do. So the 10-year plan for the NHS is coming out on the 2nd of July, and that'll talk about trying to move more from treatment to prevention, moving more services towards the community. So the government is talking about reform. We haven't yet seen the plans. We'll need to see that they're realistic plans and that they're able to deliver, but they're saying exactly the right things about what needs to change so that this money starts to have an impact. But the other thing that I think is significant is that there'll be more money for technology, more money for investment in the equipment that our staff in the NHS use. So they're less fighting with old systems, and which makes it harder for them to treat us as well as they could. Can I just say something on that? I think one of the things that's really important that the government has done is it's announced 5-year budgets which are going to be given to mayors to decide to spend, whereas previously transport spending was always about places around the country, places in the north, having to apply and beg for the money to the Department for Transport in London. Handing the money to mayors on a 5-year basis for them to get on and spend is a really significant change, because it means that we'll have more control over what happens in the northwest.
Yeah, a lot of money has been spent on this. I think your organisations argue that it should be spent differently and better.
Yeah, there's two problems. Basically, the previous government effectively gave up on processing a whole load of asylum claims, and that increased the backlog, and so we had to spend a lot more on accommodating people. The second problem is that we have these national contracts for the accommodation, and we've got kind of national companies like Clear Springs who've got no interest in what happens in local communities. So we've said that we should give this job to local authorities, make sure they're funded properly to do it, so that they can take into account the local community circumstances. They can kind of find accommodation that's more appropriate for the local area. Because at the moment what's happening is these national companies are just doing things without any concern for what happens in communities, what people locally think. And there's an opportunity to actually deal with this. The contracts have a break clause in 2026, and we think that those break clauses should be exercised so that we can give the job to local authorities, and it's done more in cooperation with local communities.
So that's all of our money.
Part of the problem, though, is that amount, is actually 41,000, has gone up by 2.5 times in the course of about 4 years, because we've got these national contracts where these companies have got no interest in doing things more cheaply, more effectively, and more in cooperation with local communities.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so we don't have to be spending the kinds of money that we are spending if we manage this better. We process the claims and we let communities have a say in what happens.
Ashwin, is there some concern about long-term funding for police?
Well, I think the other issue is the court system. We've had huge backlogs in the court system. So actually having a functioning criminal justice system will mean that the police are able to do their job more effectively, and hopefully the steady increases in budget will help with that.